Hey everyone, my name is Thomas Q. Jones and welcome back to the Castar Couch, presented by Castar. Now Castar is an exclusive community for creatives to help you find talent, book gigs, and collaborate with other established and aspiring artists in Hollywood. Now today, I'm very excited to talk to one of Hollywood's brightest up-and-coming writers and directors. Now he's worked with some of the best actors in the game, from Golden Globe winner Bruce Davison to award-winning actor Isak Dabankale. His films have also premiered in film festivals all over the world, including the Oldenburg Film Festival in Germany, and also winning him Best Director in the Madrid Film Festival. I'm extremely excited to talk to my brother, Matthew Berkowitz. How you doing, man?
I'm good, dude. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us on the Castar Couch, man. I've been wanting to talk to you for a long time. I know you're busy.
I like the couch.
A busy man. I know you're a busy man. You're all over the world, so thank you, man, for taking the time to sit down with us.
Thank you for having me, bro.
So, to get started, you know, I mean, me and you obviously have worked on some projects.
Two projects. More, three.
Yeah, actually, three projects in the last couple of years. So, you know, I would consider you probably one of my, not closest friends, one of my best friends, especially in this industry.
I feel the same way.
You know what I'm saying? So, like I said, I'm glad to finally get a chance to sit down and talk some, you know, artistic talk with you. So, let's get started. First of all, who is Matt Berkowitz? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
He's just this guy, lives in Los Angeles for the moment. He likes to write scripts, find a way to get them made, make them most of the time with his friends when he can. Most of the time they're cool, weird films.
Got you.
Yeah.
Cool, weird films.
He's got a dog. He's got a friend named Thomas.
I've got a dog too.
He's got a wife.
Well, look, man, you just said LA. So
Yeah.
obviously tell us a little bit about where you're from and how you got into directing.
I was born in Los Angeles. I've been here my whole life, which has its pluses and its minuses, like for everything. You know, I got into directing. I started when I was younger. I was a painter, right? So I started painting as a young kid.
I didn't even know that.
You didn't know that?
So
Yeah.
I'm just finding this out for the first time, just like you guys.
So I wanted to be a painter. And then, you know, fast forward, you know, 13, 14, painting doesn't really seem like a great idea. So I kind of like fell in love with films, right? When I was, ever since I was, as far as I could remember. And I was just immediately drawn to it because it was like painting on a bigger canvas for me. You know, I just took every opportunity I could to just get into the film industry. PA, did this, did that. You know, I had Nick for very good at editing. And it led me to meeting one of the most important people in my life, Robert Ferretti, who became my mentor. And he taught me every single thing about post and editing, and he really crafted, you know, my skills. And then looking at all these films and all the projects that I worked on in post, whether it be commercials or this, and shooting my own stuff, and you know, going to college, I majored in philosophy and film. So, but like looking at all these other projects that I was working on, I got to see kind of the back end of how people were making their movies, right? Like what footage was delivered to me, I had to turn it into something. And that kind of just zoned in my skill, and started writing scripts. Next thing I knew, I just landed some money and I made a film.
Yeah, which we're going to definitely get into. I mean, as a director, you seem like more of a student of the industry. You know, all of your films that I've seen, even the film that we shot together, are very layered. The scripts are very layered. The shots are very intense and specific. Who were some of the directors that inspired you once you decided that you wanted to go this route?
From an early age, you know, the list is huge, but you know, like obviously Bergman, Scorsese, Michael Haneke, Godard, Fellini, David Lynch was a huge inspiration on me. And then it trickles down. You know, I love Gaspar Noé. I mean, The Well is big, but those were the films that, like, when I was 17, 18, that I was like, I would just like sit at home and just watch movies all day, back to back to back to back to back. Sometimes I'd just watch the movie over and over and over again. I'd study it just like over and over, just sitting in front of my TV. So those are the filmmakers that kind of drew me in, that I was like completely fascinated with, because it was unlike anything I'd ever seen before.
Yeah.
It was kind of like poetry in motion.
Got you. Well, this takes us into your first film, Wild and Blue. And when we met a couple of years ago, I could tell that you were a film guy. And for me, you know, I grew up in Virginia. And so even though Hollywood's not there, I was always interested in the independent films.
Yeah.
And I think that's why we clicked immediately in the specific films, kind of the art house films. Those were the films that I was really intrigued by more so than the more commercial films.
Yeah.
So when I saw Wild and Blue after we met, I was like, this guy is pretty interesting, because it's not like any film that I've seen. And those are the films that I'm interested in, and those are the films I like to watch. So get into Wild and Blue a little bit. Tell us about the script. Tell us how that process happened.
You know, I had this idea, and it was a loose idea, right? It was like, I wanted to make, it wasn't really a horror film. I wanted to make just an experimental thriller, right? Let's call it that.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like fell into this genre that I like to call like psychodramas, right?
Yeah.
So you've got this very intense lead character, and you go along on his journey. This happens to be Wild and Blue, where your main character is a serial killer that has a camera that's murdering all these people.
Yeah.
But it's much more fun than that, and it's much more psychological, and it gets into like the human condition, what it means to be a man, what it means to be a viewer, what it means to be on camera, what it means to have a camera, how that affects the world. And I got to really play with some of the concepts that I've been throwing around for years as a philosophy student. And like, you know, it was that perfect mold for me to like bring these ideas into this concept.
Yeah.
And I knew, like, going into it, me and the executive producer, when we were designing the idea, it was something that could be done for low money and could look really cool.
Yeah.
So, and I said, okay, cool. If I can make it look really cool and stylish and slick and have all these great cinematic qualities to it, it can also have all these theoretical qualities to it. So that's Wild and Blue. That's the roundabout version of what it is.
Well, I mean, it's interesting that you clearly use philosophy and the human experience in a lot of your projects, which is why I think they stand out. You're very, very specific, not only just with the writing, but the backstories of the characters, each character. When I think of your films, I think of older directors that have been directors for 20, 30 years. And the fact that, you know, you're mid-30s and you're making films like this already, it's pretty impressive.
Thank you, dude.
Definitely. So your next film was a film that we did.
Violent Man.
A Violent Man. I made Marco Rain tap out.
Ty.
Victoria.
For the record.
Got a little too cocky. Saw an opportunity and I took it. This was a huge experience for me, coming from football, kind of dabbling into acting and in Hollywood, and then finally finding myself in a position to be the lead in my own movie that I can produce. And you were very instrumental in that, not just from the script, but actually so many different things that I learned about being a producer, being a writer, being a lead actor. That whole process literally just kind of 3 weeks or 2 weeks, however long it took us to shoot it, just kind of molded me and turned me into who I am now. So writing that script, The Violent Man, I mean, what inspired that script? Because you wrote this script a couple of years ago and we shot it. Shot it in 2016, but you wrote that script about 4 or 5 years before that. What inspired that script?
So I'm a huge fan of film noir. I just always have been. And it's just something about like the characters who are the characters who don't really foresee their doom coming, and they continue to make the same choices that perpetuate the doom that's coming, but they think it's solving their problem. So I was very influenced by noir and those characters that fit in that mold, like in Double Indemnity, and obviously
In a Lonely Place.
In a Lonely Place,
Nicholas
and obviously in Nicholas Ray's In a Lonely Place.
Yeah.
So when I came up with the idea for the script, it was, all right, so it was kind of like a loose adaptation of Nicholas Raised in a Lonely Place. How do we fit that into a contemporary world? And it started to unravel. Okay, well, what if he's an MMA fighter? What does it mean to be like somebody who's violent by career? That's what their job is. They're violent by nature. Or is it the world who perceives them as being violent because that's what they do for a living?
Yeah, of course.
And then I think when I saw you act on that short that we worked on together, it changed my perspective on the entire project. And in sitting down with you and I were able to really flush out the character of Ty, and the world that he fit into, and bring into, I thought really important politics of where the world was at that time. And don't forget, dude, we made that movie before Trump was president.
Yeah, we did.
He became president while we were shooting.
Yes, while we were shooting
in the valley.
Yeah, he did.
So, like, we started this film when he was not president, and we ended the film when he was president.
Yeah.
So there's a huge period of time where, like, the world and history forever will be changed while we were making that movie.
Yeah.
And I thought, like, the election had a lot to do with the characters that we were designing because of the circumstances that your character was facing, who he was, what he looked like, where his background was, what his relationship with his girl was, and why he was a prime suspect for something he may or may not have done.
Yes. Well, that's the thing. There's a lot of symbolism in all of your films. You're very, very specific. And the symbolism, obviously, with Trump being president and just the whole kind of, racial issues and tensions that kind of come with that. I want you to elaborate a little bit more on the symbolism in A Violent Man, because initially you had the lead character as a white guy, and also the colors.
Yeah.
Because that's another thing that sticks out in the film is the colors. Everyone that watches this film, the shots were incredible. The colors and the symbolism was genius. The tone that it gave the film. So just elaborate a little bit more on the specifics of it.
Yeah, I thought that, when you and I kind of flushed out the premise for the script, it really started to get its own legs on like what it meant to be, black in America at that time. What did it mean to be a fighter? What did it mean to be somebody who was already a suspect of something he didn't do?
Yeah.
What it meant to be part of a corporation and be a product of a corporation and or owned by a corporation.
Yeah.
And I think all those ideas kind of flushed itself out as we were, writing the script. And we painted a lot with symbolism in terms of like the American flag. That was fun. Red, white, blue.
Colors, yeah.
Those colors were prevalent through the entire film. There were scenes that just like we went really ham with those colors with the red.
Of course, yeah.
But red, white, and blue is what the film's about. It's about freedom. It's about money. It's about racism, and it's about violence.
Yeah.
Those are the things that America's founded on. So how are you not going to make a movie about that doesn't talk about what America's policies are?
Yeah, that's pretty deep, and I think that's when you and I, as creatives, were able to really connect. And that process was one of the most inspirational processes I've had since I've been an actor and a creator. The 2 months of pre-production that you and I spent watching films that neither one of us had seen before, that was a very important time for me. I remember we watched Nicholas Raised in a Lonely Place, then we turn around and watch Clockers by Spike Lee, then we turn around and watch The Piano Teacher in subtitles, then we turn around, we'd watch Love Jones.
Yeah. All on my couch, right around the corner.
Yeah, so it was really dope to just know we come from two different parts of the world, two different perspectives of the world, but then be able to come together on a film and see things identical.
Yeah.
And I think that's the magic of film, that's the magic of Hollywood, and that's the magic of art and creating something that is human. And I think that's what we did with the film A Violent Man. So if you guys haven't seen the film, it's called A Violent Man. It's on iTunes, it's on Amazon, it's on YouTube. It's also international. It's in the UK and it's in China right now. We're still trying to sell to some other international territories. But I think it's a pretty cool film if you want to check it out. This guy did an incredible job from the way that he shot it to the cast. I mean, the casting process was just as fun. I mean,
That was fun.
We had some incredible actors. You know, Kalila Joy, who's actually been on the show, Castar Couch before. Bruce Davison.
John Skleroff.
John Skarloff.
Isak Dabonkale.
Isak Dabonkale, Denise Richards, Felicia Terrell, John Lewis, and then the fight scenes. Because, you know, the thing about it is it's an MMA film. So I trained for 2 months before we shot the film, and he would record me in the fight choreography. And so we kind of had a leg up in post-production because, you know, we spent all that time in pre-production making sure we were prepared. So, like I said, that was an incredible experience, and it kind of really catapulted me now into being a producer and then understanding what to look for, what to expect, and what my expectations are. And then I owe a lot of that to you too. So I'm
Forever,
grateful for
bro.
that.
You know
Forever
what's
grateful for
crazy?
that. Thank you.
I actually think that there's only 45 seconds of that film that you're not in.
Yeah.
You're in almost every scene. Every scene.
It's
So it's
pretty-
just like there's only that one scene in the bar that you're not in.
Yeah, it's pretty intense film. Really, really proud of it. So like I said, if you guys haven't seen it, A Violent Man. And now you have another film. So this guy's constantly working. That's why it took me so long to get him on the show. You were in New York for most of the summer, filming a film called Inside Me. And I remember when you were writing the script, because you were actually writing the script while we were shooting A Violent Man at the same time. What inspired this script, man? Because it's a pretty intense movie as well, just like all the rest of your movies.
That's a loaded question for a loaded script, dude.
Well, what is something that, I mean, you seem like you have this obsession with, like you said, art house films, but also these noir throwbacks.
Yeah.
You know, all of your films, you know, even when you watch Wild and Blue, you watch A Violent Man, you know, it feels like you're watching something from
Another galaxy.
Yeah.
Something far, weird,
Yeah.
and you want to look over. You don't know really where you are. It's kind of spooky
the
to be
world
there.
that you create in these films, the characters. I mean, it's very, very unique, very specific. So, you know, as far as this script, I mean, what made you want to make a film like this one? I mean, you could tell the people a little bit about what it is, so they can.
Yeah,
have an idea.
it's a story about a forensic psychologist who is victim of a crime, and that crime turns her life inside out. Now, maybe she's been that person her whole life. Maybe that unraveled some parts of herself that she had not known was there, or maybe she had just been faking it. But that film Inside Me is something I'm really excited about. That's, you know, I'm still editing it, so it's still coming together. It's pretty close. But you know, I've always been fascinated with, you know, some of us are so, we move so quick in this world, you know, and so we move so fast in a straight line that it's so easy to be just kind of knocked off that line. Mm-hmm. And what happens if we're just knocked off that line? How far do we go off in a totally different direction?
Yeah,
That's
of course.
social norms. Mm-hmm. Very similar to, I think Wild and Blue takes place after that for that main character. He's far off the ledge. Mm-hmm. Your character is in the middle of that shift, right? We don't know if he's going to go far off into a place that is not social norms, is not acceptable, or if he's going to come back. But it is an outside event that forces a main character to, in an act of free will, change his or her life.
Yeah.
And that was something that was also very important to me in Inside Me. But I think those are things that I'm always playing around with like, you know, for me, I think the world is very fragile. And at any point, something terrible could happen to any of us.
Of course.
And it's how do we react with those situations at hand.
Yeah.
And I think that, for me, is a leaping off point for all of my characters.
Well, you seem to like flawed characters too.
Yeah.
Which is what I really like, because, like I said, everyone has their flaws. No one's perfect. So I think that's why when the audiences watch your films, they can relate, no matter what the subject matter is. There's a part of them that can connect to each character.
Yeah, absolutely. And none of these characters are fighting aliens. They're fighting themselves.
Yes.
And that's like what we as humans have. We're always fighting ourselves. We're always fighting, you know, our internal demons, our conflicts, our desires, whatever it is that we're fighting with every day. That's, you know, our strive to be great, our strive to be bad.
Yeah, that's powerful. And I think more films like that need to be shown. Obviously, you know, the industry's changed now with streaming platforms and things of that nature. But, you know, there's nothing like going to the movie theater and seeing a film that you can leave and you feel like you took a piece of that character with you. And that's what I think that you do extremely well. So now you're not only writing and directing, but you're also producing. I know you produced a film called Diary starring Claudia Mailer. You know, that seems like something that's kind of a passion for you as well. You know, you produced it, you put the whole film together. Is that something that you see in your future too?
Yeah, I love producing. I think producing is just as much. I think producers get a lot of bad rap just because there might just be so many bad producers out there. I don't really know, but I think producing is just as much of an art as directing is. Just on the other side.
Yeah.
And I truly think some of the best producers know what it's like to be a director.
Yeah.
So when it's a project like Diary that I really fell in love with, it was something that I wanted to help build in a different way from outside.
Yeah.
As just a producer with the director, with the writer. And that was really exciting to me. And luckily we got to have you on set
Yeah.
for a couple really great days.
Yeah.
And the performances in that film, the style, everything about that film really flowed really well together. So I'm excited for that to come out.
Well, the thing about being a producer, like you said, you know, it helps you understand the other side. Because, you know, when you're putting the cast together, locations together, the crew together, the scheduling together, it just makes you more connected to the film, connected to the project. And I think that's what really helped me with A Violent Man is for the first time being a producer, and seeing all the, you know, behind the scenes situations and on set, if there's a problem, having to fix the problem and then get back into character.
Yeah.
You know, anytime you're that engulfed into a project, I think it's always going to be more, the performances are going to be more passionate, and you're more driven to make an incredible film. But I know, like I said, with Diary, I mean, you produced that one. It's an incredible film. Diary, it's directed by Jen Gelfer, starring Claudia Mailer. It'll be out next year in theaters, as well as his other film, Inside Me, which will be out next year as well. So I have a couple of random questions for you.
Shoot.
You ready?
Yeah. Let's do
Sure?
it. Yeah.
Okay. I know this is going to be a hard question for you, but what's your favorite movie of all time?
Taxi Driver.
Oh. Okay, it wasn't as hard as I thought it'd be.
I mean, it's a question I get asked a lot, so I would probably, you know, I mean, favorite's a hard thing.
So Taxi Driver is your favorite of all time?
Probably, I mean, I have 10 probably
Yes,
favorite movies. But Taxi Driver will always be like the thing that's closest to my heart.
Got you. What's the last TV show that you binged?
Succession.
Succession.
Yeah. On HBO, it's great.
Okay.
It's really good.
I have to check that one out. What's your favorite genre of film?
Depends on the week, right? Because some weeks I'm watching like 70s crime films. Sometimes I'm watching American classics. Sometimes I'm watching new wave Korean films. Sometimes I'm watching French new wave. Last week I just watched a bunch of Korean films. Okay. And I rewatch all my favorite movies. So I'd say all genres.
All genres.
All genres.
That's a fair answer.
All genres.
Knowing you and knowing you know, your extensive film studies, I wouldn't give that past to anybody else.
All genres.
But I'll give it to you. Favorite city?
That's tough. It is LA, and it's New York. That also just depends on the month instead of the week.
Okay, that's fair. Favorite food?
Thai
food.
Thai food.
Yeah, when we were working on A Violent Man, we literally had Thai food probably every day.
Probably 5 nights a week.
Yeah, we did. Definitely.
And Al Wazir.
Yes, right down the street. Okay, finally, So what is some advice that you give to young directors that are trying to get in the industry? Nowadays, it's a lot easier because, you know, you have the internet, you have social media, you have platforms like Castar, where, you know, you can find talent and you can, you know, book talent, you can do all those things here. But what advice would you give to up-and-coming directors trying to get in the industry?
Make it. Just go make it. Just keep going for it, and once you shoot everything, shoot every single thing, never stop shooting. Whether you're on set or you're off set, always shoot everything. When the actors aren't looking, film. All that stuff is worth it. And just make something that's daring and exciting, because now, more than ever, film needs it. Because you're either getting, you know, $300 million Disney films, or you're getting big Netflix movies. So if you want to stand out, I think you need to have a loud voice and need to stand up and say what you want to say and say it loudly, and don't let anything be up for interpretation.
The sky's the limit for you, man. I mean, your potential is through the roof. You know, for me, you know, it was a pleasure being able to work with you on A Violent Man and a couple other projects. I can't wait to see what you do next. I know you have a lot of things in your mind and a lot of scripts that are going to be written. So I'm just excited to be on the journey with you, man. Thank you so much for coming to talk to us on the Castar Couch. Appreciate it, brother. Thank you. My man. All right, thank you guys for tuning in again to the Castar Couch. For more information on Castar, go to our website, castrapp.com. For the hottest gigs in LA, download Castar. To find the hottest talent in LA, download Castar. And don't forget to like and subscribe to our page at the bottom, and we'll see you here next time at the Castar Couch.